Newly uncovered footage of Snoop Dogg and Tupac has surfaced. Material that was never intended to be seen by the public.
Even when he played Hit 'Em Up the song, I didn't like the song.
Did you feel like it was
I didn't
too
like
much?
it.
Right.
I didn't like it.
This new footage doesn't just complicate what we know about Tupac and Snoop Dogg's relationship. It reshapes the entire story of Tupac's final moments. And when investigators uncovered where the video originated, the truth left everyone stunned. For decades, fans believed every detail surrounding Tupac Shakur's final days had already been revealed. Every photo, every interview, every theory was thought to be accounted for. But then, out of nowhere, a mysterious new video surfaced online, showing Tupac and Snoop Dogg together after the date the world believed Tupac was gone. At first, many dismissed it as a deepfake or another elaborate hoax. But when experts began analyzing the footage frame by frame, strange inconsistencies and familiar voices started to emerge. The setting, the dialogue, even Tupac's movements pointed to something far more complex. In the history of hip-hop, few relationships have captivated audiences or fueled more debate than the bond between Snoop Dogg and Tupac Shakur. These two giants of West Coast rap, both born in 1971, helped define an era that continues to shape culture today. Yet what many don't realize is that newly surfaced footage and recent revelations have completely reshaped our understanding of their connection, revealing a story far more intricate and deeply human than the simplified versions we've heard for decades. The story of Snoop and Tupac isn't just about two rappers who made music together. It's about mentorship, brotherhood, and a bond so deep it transcended the volatile world of 1990s hip-hop, even as outside forces worked to pull them apart. And now, with newly uncovered footage from MTV archives and personal collections, we're seeing their relationship in an entirely new light, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about the final months leading up to Tupac's tragic death on September 13th, 1996. Let me take you back to where it all began. The year was 1993, and the setting was a rap party for the film Poetic Justice in Los Angeles. Snoop Dogg, riding high on the success of his debut album Doggy Style, was already a rising star in the rap world. But on this particular night, something happened that would change the course of his life forever.
I finally got a chance to meet Pac in 1993 at a rap party for Poetic Justice in L.A. And on that night, Pac passed me my first blunt.
You might be thinking, a blunt? That's what changed everything. But bear with me, because this moment represents far more than a simple introduction to a new way of smoking. Tupac introduced Snoop to smoking blunts, a habit Snoop credits with shaping the entire laid-back persona that would later become his signature trademark.
That's right. Tupac is the one that got Snoop Dogg smoking blunts. You see, I was a zigzag man before that shit.
This wasn't just about a smoking technique. It was about Tupac seeing something in Snoop, potential that Snoop himself hadn't fully recognized. And this pattern of Tupac believing in Snoop, pushing him to become more than he ever imagined, would grow into a defining element of their relationship. Fast forward to 1995, and Tupac was sitting in prison, facing what looked like the end of his career. But Snoop saw an opportunity.
And then, in 1995, I told Suge Knight, I said, Suge, get Pac out of prison, have him come join our team at Death Row Records, you know, the most unfuckwittable record label of all time.
When Tupac joined Death Row Records after being released from prison, something remarkable happened. Both artists, standing at pivotal moments in their careers, found in each other not just collaborators, but true brothers. The chemistry between them was undeniable. Tupac's fiery, intense delivery contrasted perfectly with Snoop's smooth, laid-back drawl, creating a dynamic that produced some of the most iconic tracks in hip-hop history. Their collaboration on two of America's most wanted, from Tupac's landmark double album All Eyes on Me, the first double album in hip-hop history, became an instant West Coast anthem that still resonates today. But what makes the recently uncovered footage so powerful is that it reveals the true depth of their relationship beyond the music. This isn't just about studio sessions or stage performances. It's about a bond that extended into the most personal parts of their lives. Consider this. When Snoop's first son, Cord, was born in 1994, Tupac stepped in as an uncle-like figure. Picture the scene. Snoop in a recording booth working on The Dogfather, while Tupac sits outside, patiently feeding Snoop's newborn McDonald's during those long recording sessions. Even Snoop himself admitted that Tupac was a better dad than he was at the time, adding that Tupac taught him how to prioritize family amid the chaos of fame. Think about that for a moment. Here's Tupac Shakur, one of the most intense and driven artists in hip-hop history, taking the time to help his friend learn how to be a father. This wasn't about publicity or image. This was genuine brotherhood and mentorship, and it didn't stop there. Tupac even played matchmaker, convincing a hesitant Snoop to marry his high school sweetheart, Shantae Broadus, in 1997. The couple has remained together ever since, a testament to Tupac's wisdom and his genuine concern for Snoop's well-being beyond their professional relationship. Now, let's talk about the footage that has recently emerged, because it's in these unguarded moments that we truly see the depth of their connection. One particularly rare clip from February 22nd, 1996, captures a celebratory moment just weeks after Snoop was acquitted in the 1993 murder trial of Philip Wildemariam, a case that nearly derailed his entire career. The group had gathered for a victory dinner at Monty's Steakhouse in Los Angeles, a death row staple for celebrations. In this footage, less than a minute long but rich in meaning, we see Tupac and Snoop standing in a dimly lit parking lot outside the restaurant. There's no dialogue and no performance of the camera, just pure, unfiltered joy between brothers sharing a moment of relief during an otherwise turbulent period. The clip is significant because it humanizes their bond, showing them as family well beyond the music industry. This was before the rift that would later divide them. This was the Snoop and Tupac fans love to remember. Two young men at their peak, supporting each other through the darkest moments. But perhaps the most revealing footage comes from behind-the-scenes material filmed during the creation of Two of America's Most Wanted. Shot in Los Angeles shortly after Tupac's release from prison in October 1995, this footage documents not just the making of a music video, but the creative synergy between two artists at the height of their powers. In this clip, we see the duo in the studio. What stands out is the effortless rapport between them. Tupac in a white shirt, Snoop in a suit and hat. During an interview, Snoop describes Tupac as his critic, fan, and friend, someone who kept him sharp without ego. They riff on intellectual rap, name-dropping Al Capone and John Gotti as influences over local Crips and Bloods. They contrast their own styles. Tupac is a relentless hustler. Snoop is a calm, laid-back, legit one. And then comes prophetic moment. Both rappers predicted their video would define 1996 hip-hop, with Tupac expressing confidence about the impact their music would make. But neither could have known the tragedy that was waiting just ahead. The unraveling of a brotherhood. By mid-1996, the landscape of hip-hop had become a battlefield. The escalating rivalry between Death Row Records on the West Coast and Bad Boy Records on the East Coast had evolved from friendly competition into something far more dangerous and deeply personal. And at the center of this storm were two friends whose bond was about to be tested in ways neither could have imagined. To understand what happened between Snoop and Tupac, we need to understand where Tupac's mindset was during this period. Fresh out of prison and still traumatized by the November 1994 Quad Studio shooting, which he believed was orchestrated by East Coast figures like the notorious B.I.G. and Puff Daddy, Tupac had adopted an all-or-nothing approach to loyalty. He expected total, unwavering solidarity from his death row family. Anything less than full commitment to the West Coast cause was seen as betrayal. Snoop, however, viewed things differently. He wasn't built for war, at least not the kind of war Tupac was ready to fight. And this core difference in perspective will become the fault line that eventually split their friendship. The breaking point came during a New York radio interview where Snoop referred to Biggie and Puff as his homeboys, openly praising their talent despite the ongoing conflict. To most people, this would seem like a reasonable gesture, acknowledging artistry across rival lines, proving that music could rise above manufactured hostility. But to Tupac, who was already angry, paranoid, and feeling abandoned, it was the ultimate betrayal. We need to pause here and recognize what Tupac was experiencing emotionally. This wasn't just about ego or pride. In Tupac's view, Snoop hadn't visited him in prison or shown the same kind of support after the shooting. To Tupac, he had been there for Snoop during Snoop's murder trial, feeding his baby, offering guidance, helping him grow as a man. And now, when Tupac expected that same unwavering loyalty, Snoop seemed to be straddling the fence.
Because my didn't say nothing to me the whole ride. And that's a 5-hour flight on a private plane.
Yeah.
So I walk up to him like maybe 3 hours into the flight, sit next to him, I'm like, you going to Vegas, cuz? And he turned on me like this and started talking to somebody else. So I'm like, all right. So I go in the back, put the blanket on my head, knife in my hand, fork in my hand.
This clip reveals something crucial about Snoop's mindset during this period. He understood that Tupac's aggressive stance, embodied in the infamous diss track Hit 'Em Up, was inviting far more trouble than they could control. Snoop recognized that gangsters existed everywhere, not just within their immediate circle, and that carrying an attitude of invincibility was not only risky, but potentially deadly. But Tupac didn't see it that way. He confronted Snoop on a private flight, and what happened next became one of the most painful moments in their entire relationship. Let that sink in for a moment. 5 hours on a private plane, and Tupac didn't utter a single word to Snoop. Imagine the tension, the confusion, the hurt Snoop must have felt. He had gone from being Tupac's protege and brother to being completely iced out. The fact that Snoop felt compelled to arm himself with knives during the flight speaks volumes about how dangerous and volatile the situation had become. The story grows even more complex when considering other perspectives. Members of Tupac's Outlaw's crew, like Napoleon, claimed that Snoop harbored jealousy over Tupac's rapid dominance at death row, which overshadowed Snoop's established status. Suge Knight later alleged that Snoop and Dr. Dre's envy of Tupac contributed to death row's eventual downfall. Was there truth to these accusations? It's complicated. Snoop had been the star of death row before Tupac arrived, having established himself as a commercial powerhouse with Doggy Style. Then Tupac arrived, and almost overnight became the face of the label. Tupac reportedly viewed Snoop as a studio gangster, tough in lyrics but unwilling to ride in real conflicts, a characterization he would later echo in his diss tracks. Online discussions, including Reddit threads and posts on X, often frame this as Tupac being right about Snoop all along, portraying Snoop as self-serving and disloyal. But is that really fair? Snoop admitted to feeling fear during the fallout, arming himself and distancing from the beef to protect his career. Was that cowardice, or was it wisdom, disloyalty, or survival instinct? The reality is that Snoop was thinking about his family, his future, and the long game. He had a newborn son, a woman he loved, and a career that could extend far beyond the death trap the East-West rivalry had become. Tupac, by contrast, was operating from a place of deep trauma, paranoia, and an almost fatalistic acceptance of violence. Their final in-person exchange was icy and devastating. When Snoop invited Tupac to the infamous Vegas fight that would ultimately claim Tupac's life, Tupac shut him down cold, saying, "Nah, I'm good." It was a rejection that spoke volumes, a door being slammed shut on a friendship that had once seemed unbreakable. But here's where newly emerged footage provides crucial context, changing everything we thought we knew about those final days. Just 3 days before Tupac's death, an MTV interview was conducted that has only recently received the attention it deserves. In this interview, we see a different side of both Snoop and Tupac, one that complicates the narrative of their supposed falling out.
We're going to make it specific as to what you could talk about and what you can't talk about. And the East Coast, West Coast thing is something that the journalists and people are making just to get paid off this so it can drag out. So they're perpetuating this so it could be drama.
Listen to what Tupac is saying here. He acknowledges that the media was fueling the East-West rivalry for profit, manufacturing drama, where perhaps none needed to exist. And most importantly, notice who was sitting right next to him during this interview. Snoop Dogg.
If it did exist, Pac, we wouldn't be here. So
Right, and if it exists, I'm going to be sitting in New York talking about it. We'll try to be better role models, and y'all try to stop putting that drama out there. You got a lot of power, a lot of responsibility. We both do. We both need to exercise greater restraint.
This footage is absolutely crucial because it shows that even in those final days, there was still communication between Snoop and Tupac. They were still doing interviews together. And Tupac was acknowledging their shared responsibility as role models. This wasn't the image of a completely severed relationship that we've been sold for decades. The most haunting footage comes from July 4th, 1996. Tupac's final live performance at the House of Blues in West Hollywood. This benefit show for the Beverly Hills Teen Choice Awards will become Tupac's swan song, and the footage from that night is nothing short of transcendent. The electrifying 90-minute set pulse with purple and blue stage lights, pyrotechnics, and a hyped crowd of 500. Tupac, shirtless and wearing white pants, commanded the stage with sweat-drenched energy, leaping, swinging the mic, and even crowd surfing during California Love. Then Snoop joins him for two of America's Most Wanted. Snoop strides out in baggy jeans and a marching jacket. The two trade verses seamlessly, locking eyes, ad-libbing, and hyping each other. Snoop daps Tupac mid-verse, both grinning amid fog and lasers. If there was animosity between them, it wasn't visible on this stage. What you see instead are two artists at the absolute peak of their powers, creating magic together one last time. The significance of this performance cannot be overstated. It's been called hip-hop's Last Supper, capturing raw, unfiltered joy while subtly masking the fractures that existed beneath the surface. The duet clip has since garnered over 100 million views on social media platforms, lauded for the effortless flow that defined G-Funk. Warren G later revealed that a surprise visit to his house kept Snoop in Los Angeles on September 7, 1996. The night Tupac was fatally shot in Las Vegas, potentially saving Snoop's life. The fact that Snoop wasn't on that trip has fueled decades of speculation and conspiracy theories. But perhaps the truth is simpler and sadder. Snoop wasn't there because, while the friendship wasn't completely severed, it had been fundamentally strained by forces beyond either their control. So what's left? And is there a deeper truth we haven't fully seen? Legacy, love, and the truth that endures. When the call came on September 7th, 1996, that Tupac had been shot, Snoop's world stopped.
I think we was playing a video game, and we kept getting a whole bunch of calls and pages. Somebody told us to turn on the news, and we turned the news on, and we seen the little shit.
After seeing the news, Snoop immediately flew to Las Vegas, driven by a desperate need to see his friend and believe that, somehow, Tupac would pull through, just as it survived everything else before. But what Snoop encountered in that hospital room would haunt him forever.
Right after I heard Tupac got shot, I immediately flew to Vegas, and I walked in the room, and I seen him laid out on the bed with all kind of tubes and shit in him, and I was so weak I damn near fell over. And his mom came over to me, and she grabbed me, and she held me up, and she said, "Baby, you got to be strong." And I went and sat next to him, and was whispering to him, telling him I loved him, and to hold on, and he was going to be okay.
That moment, Snoop holding Tupac's hand, whispering his final words, feeling their spirits connect despite Tupac's lack of consciousness, is where the truth of their relationship truly lives. Not in the arguments, not in the silent treatments on airplanes, not in the diss tracks or accusations of jealousy. The truth resides in this moment of pure love and connection between two brothers who, despite everything, never stopped caring for each other. 6 days later, on September 13, 1996, Tupac Shakur died at the age of 25. In the decade since, Snoop has carried the weight of that loss, along with all the complicated emotions from their fractured final months together. But here's what the newly emerged footage in Snoop's reflections reveal. Despite the tension, despite the rift, despite all the external forces that conspire to drive them apart, Snoop insists they loved each other, emphasizing the unbreakable core bond they shared. Snoop has spent nearly 3 decades proving the truth of that statement through his actions. In 2017, he inducted Tupac into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, delivering an emotional speech that laid bare the depth of their connection and his enduring grief.
When I sat down to gather my thoughts about my label mate, my homie, and my brother, there's one thought that kept coming back to me. Tupac, the actual human being. And while many remember him now as some kind of thugged out superhero, Tupac knew he was only human. And he represented through his music like no one before. It's a fact that he never shied away from. He wore it like a badge of honor.
Snoop has described Tupac's influence as profound, noting that Tupac saw more potential in him than he saw in himself, and praising his unmatched work ethic as a lasting lesson in dedication.
See, that's the thing with Pac. When he loves hard. Whether that was him loving black people, him loving his homies, him loving his record label, And of course, him loving his beautiful and incredibly strong mother, the late Afeni Shakur.
Their hologram reunion at Coachella in 2012 stunned audiences, with Snoop performing two of America's most wanted alongside Tupac's digital likeness. The moment was both technologically groundbreaking and emotionally devastating for fans who had waited 16 years to see them together again. Today, Snoop continues to reflect on Tupac's lessons in interviews, lessons ranging from work ethic to fatherhood, and even credits him for his enduring marriage to Shantae. The fact that Snoop and Shantae are still together decades later stands as a living testament to Tupac's wisdom and genuine care for his friends' well-being. So, what does all this newly emerged footage tell us? What truths does it reveal that change everything we thought we knew, showing how they learned from each other and left behind a legacy that transcends drama and pain? Of course, the footage cannot change the facts. Tupac is still gone, taken from us at just 25 years old. The rift between him and Snoop Dogg in those final months was real. The pain was real. The loss was devastating. But the truth is, perspectives have shifted regarding the depth and resilience of their bond. Even when everything seemed to be falling apart, when external forces were pulling them in opposite directions, the love between these two brothers remained unbreakable at its core. Their chemistry was irreplaceable. Their music remains timeless. And their story, now enriched by previously unseen footage and decades of reflection, reminds us that even the most